In this first video for Chapter 14, we're going to be looking at compositing and alpha channels. We're going to discuss some of the different terminology, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the tools that are available. So as you get further into this chapter, you'll have a better understanding of this stuff. So one of the first things, go ahead and open Lesson 14 if you have not already done so, and then navigate under Graphics here and open the Theft Unexpected PNG. So one of the first things the chapter talks about is the alpha channel. And that is part of an image if it contains an alpha. So not only would you have your three color channels, R, G, and B, and those are all viewed as separate monochrome channels, they're referred to. You have a fourth channel, which is considered your alpha channel, and that is basically, it includes your visibility, transparency, and opacity all in that. And that's how that one's seen. Not all files have an alpha channel. So if you bring in something such as a JPEG, it does not contain an alpha channel. But if you're working with files such as PNG, as we see here, EPS, Targa, or a TIFF file, those should all be able to contain alpha channels and will be beneficial to compositing. So be mindful of the type of file you're bringing in for this type of stuff. And basically this fourth channel, which we consider our opacity for the alpha channel, is allowing you to separate what's visible and what's not. One of the first settings that it talks about is in the source panel. You want to be able to view what's actually solid and what is see-through. And right now you can see the background looks black. This does have the alpha channel. The only thing that's in this one is the text with the little bit of glow around it. And to truly have a good understanding of how that's seen, you can come down here to your settings panel and choose transparency grid. This here reflects a more accurate view of that PNG, because PNGs basically allow things to be brought in, cut out, and you don't have to do any keying of that sort, and we'll talk about keying here in a moment. However, the downside to seeing the checkerboard background, if you have white text or something with a glow, you can't really see its full potential in this view. So you can choose to turn it on or choose to turn it off. I think the book does want us to go ahead and put it back so we can see what we're working with. But right there in settings, transparency grid, that will allow you to view your PNG accurately, or any other one that has an alpha channel. And the other thing that we're talking about with these images for the compositing purpose is we've worked with full screen graphics in the past in some of the other chapters. All this stuff is actually going to be stacking of layers where multiple pieces are visible throughout, because before, if you put a full screen image on the top layer, that's all you saw. Whereas if we add this text, or if you see like this guy over here on the right, he was on a separate layer of footage that was keyed out, and then the background, which is on video 1, has shown through. So these are more about adding pieces and parts on different layers. Okay, some other important terminology before we really get into this fully is when we're talking about our compositing stuff, you also need to understand pre-production. So if you're filming your own items, especially with green screen like this gentleman here, you want to make sure stuff is well lit, very even. Nothing has a lot of reflective light onto your character. So if that green that was behind him was bouncing towards your character, the probability of cutting holes into your actor would be high. And then also be mindful if you're shooting on a green screen or a blue screen or a different color wall that you're trying to key out for some purpose, that the actor or whatever object you're placing in front of that image does not have the same color. So if your actor is wearing a shirt with green stripes and you're on a green screen, you might not get the best result. And it would lead to a lot more work if you have to still make that footage work. So setup's important. And then after that, we've already talked a little bit about the alpha channel, and that's basically the transparency for the pixels. So we saw on the left side here, the text, this is the visible pixels, and then the 0% would be this background here where we saw that it was see-through. Keying is basically using a chroma keyer or ultra keyer, and that is manipulating the luma value of the footage itself. It's the color of the brightness. So you're basically choosing to pick out the green, and then it sucks it out and keys it out. The tools are very powerful that we're going to use, and if your stuff is well lit, it should give you a very clean key quickly. However, if you don't get that through just keying, there's something called a mat, which we will get into, where you can put like a box on a section to help key it out a little bit better. You're basically just subtracting that area. It's really good if the actor doesn't cross that. We also talk about opacity. So that's when it's at 100%, it's not see-through, it's very solid. And the lower the opacity is, the more see-through it becomes. We also are going to be dealing with blend modes. So if I click on this image here and then go up to effects control, I can show you where the blend mode is. You can see this one had an alter keyer on it as well. But we have right here is blend mode, and you click down on this panel. You have all these different ones. One of the best things you can do with this is just to go through and test these to see how they interact. Normal is your default. That is where you're viewing something at 100%, so it's not see-through. If you change to dissolve, darken, multiply, lighten, any of those, your value for it's not going to be 100% on any one image. It's going to manipulate between the two layers the values that they're at, so you can see different effects. So let me go ahead and just click on this darken, and you can see it kind of cuts through to the background. If I choose lighten, now it's the reverse of that. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your compositing, one of these blend modes might be a popular use for you, but they're very similar to Photoshop and the layers and the settings. But you come over here into your effects panel, and they're right here with blend mode under opacity if you want to manipulate them here. Green screen, I've mentioned that already. Of course, that is the background that our actor was on, and this is used for special effects when you have to add something in, but basically you're turning your green pixels transparent. And then matting is a way to cut out a shape. I'm going to put one on here, and then I will throw it away just so you can see. So if we needed an extra piece over here, and I'm going to make this bigger, but if the key wasn't working very good in this one spot, and then the actor never crossed it with his arm, I could put a hole there and choose invert, and we could stack that in our layers in regards to be able to cut that out. And you can come in here more with your settings, and the way they're stacked will make a difference. You also have choices of feathering these, but I may double stack 2 layers to get a clean key. But that's what it's talking about with a mat. It's basically one of these shapes using a mask. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z on that. And we're back to the original. And in the next video, we will dive into more of what the chapter wants. But hopefully that terminology gave you a little bit of insight, and this chapter will go real smooth.